Alright, we should be good. Here we go.
You know, the Fire Nation comes to invade, and Kaya ultimately dies, and it leaves Hakoda, Sokka and Katara's father, to take those two of them and venture off to maybe a better stronghold, which is the Northern Water Temple.
Wait, there's no intro to this at all. There's no intro to this at all. Also, is that a different guy compared to the last video where in What If Aang Never Ran Away? Is that a different voice actor? Let me check. I have to double check this real quick.
For you, we believe that we have...
Oh no! This guy's gonna be worse because he doesn't know what the fuck is happening.
The comes to invade, and Kaya ultimately dies, and it leaves Hakoda, Sokka and Katara's father, to take those two of them and venture off.
This guy does not seem anywhere close to confident at all. By the way, I don't. This guy doesn't even feel very close to confident. That's not good.
To maybe a better stronghold, which is the Northern Water Temple. Was Katara meant to be the Avatar? That's the big question surrounding today's episode of CBR Saga.
What? Wait. So they didn't do a fucking sequel to like to their own video? When the fuck did this? 2 years ago. When did What If Aang Never Ran Away come out? Why Katara should have been the Avatar? Okay. So is this not a sequel to what they did in their last video? September 17th, 2020. That's when that video came out.
You know,
why didn't they make this a sequel to like to the shit they did earlier? What?
The cabbage merchant's favorite. Was Katara meant to be the Avatar? That's the big question surrounding today's episode of CBR Saga, aka the cabbage merchant's favorite podcast on the internet. We all know that Aang was frozen in ice for 100 years while the Fire Nation...
What do you mean, was Katara... What is going... Okay, I'm confused. Is this a story, or are you just, like, discussing this shit? Because you're saying, like, Avatar alternate timeline, right? Katara's the Avatar. But, like, now the question is like, was Katara meant to be the Avatar? Katara in the Avatar cycle, who will train... Bro, this is just a discussion video. What? So this isn't even, like, them, like, continuing off their shit story from the last video. This is them, like, making a fucking discussion video. What?
Declared war. But what would have happened if Aang lived a natural life? Would he have defeated the Fire Nation in his time? Or would it fall to the next Avatar to take up the good fight? The way the timeline works out, I think there's enough evidence to say it's at least a possibility that Katara would have been the next Avatar. So let's have...
Wait a minute! They just answered this fucking question in their last video, and they made Aang get packed up! They packed him up and had him fail! What?! So this isn't... So people would get fucking confused at this bullshit! What?!
I'm joined today by my good friend Nick. Nick, how you doing today?
Doing good, Jacoby. Very excited.
I am too, because I love Avatar. I love talking about all
Oh my god, this is a fucking podcast.
things Avatar, and I love talking, which I think is a very defining question for everybody.
Sure.
If you could pick a bending style to have in today's world, which would you have?
I mean, I think there are better choices, but ever since I was a kid, the answer has been an earthbender. I like the solidity, the sort of strength in earthbending. Plus, I could use it to...
So, wait a minute. Let me get this straight. They didn't even make this video into, like, its own story thing. They really just turned this into a fucking podcast episode. What the hell, man?
Get around faster. A house out of air. That's all I'm saying.
I guess that's... I'm going to live on a cloud, Nick. You watch me. All right, so let's kind of dive into the topic today, and we're going to be talking about the possibility that Katara could have been the Avatar, and we like to deal with this kind of alternate timeline thing. And first and foremost, that starts with Aang.
All right, this is literal. I'm not seeing anything like so far. They just gave like their own opinions off of like what they think the bending style, what bending style they would do here, and just like had their own question today. All right, but let's talk about. They're getting to the Aang timeline. Are they gonna reference their previous video at all?
The pivotal moment, of course, in Avatar is Aang being frozen in ice for 100 years. So, kind of for this timeline that we're going to talk about, let's pretend that that didn't happen. Let's pretend that Aang was actually there and didn't run away back, 100 years ago, right before the Fire Nation attacked, and kind of talk about how that would have unfolded, a little bit. Because, as we know, the Fire Nation attacked and wiped out the air nomads completely.
Are they not referencing their original video at all? What they did they already did a what if on this shit. Are they not referencing? Are they not going to reference this at all? I'm really confused. Oh, thanks for the 10, Jesus Kane. Sage, watch the champ. You won't be disappointed and have me laughing. But who in I don't know, it's Voldegod and Tanya. Ooh, Tanya the Evil. I've heard some stuff here. Also, Firebending is clear superior. Warning, DJ Chan's videos contain a lot of curse words. I don't really care about that, although that's definitely he definitely is definitely running that risk of monetization, but I don't really care.
Using, the power of the comments to kind of take over. And I think it would have been very interesting if Aang was actually there for that fight.
They're not referencing their original video at all, are they?
And was fighting alongside his mentor, Monk Gyatso, and was able to kind of defend himself. Because even though Aang had not mastered the Avatar state, we at least saw that he could enter it at a young age and unleash the power of the Avatar. So I think if he was actually there at his air temple when the Fire Nation attacked, I think that could have gone differently.
Oh my god! That just makes everything that happened in the original timeline, in the original video, worse! No! 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 Remember, guys, in the previous video when the Fire Nation attacked and they had Sozin's comment, they had these guys go out and literally pack up the air nomads. These guys literally say, yo, if Aang was there, if he had stayed and never ran away, I think that fight would have gone differently. There's no fucking way. Oh my god. Oh my god. That just makes that original video worse.
I think a lot of air nomads would have been wiped out, and there would have been significantly less of them going forward, but at least I think that he would have stood a chance to at least get away. What do you think?
No, I agree, and the reason I agree is because when he is, in the regular timeline, when he is eventually brought out of the ice, he masters the elements and the Avatar state in a very short amount of time.
He didn't master them, though, at all. He learned them, but, like, Toph and fucking, Zuko were like, yo, you kind of need a lot more work in firebending and earthbending. Not that I'm gonna take away what Aang actually did, but he never actually mastered them by the time he reached Ozai. He did eventually master them completely when he got older, though, but he did not have that shit mastered by the time he reached Ozai.
So,
the only reason why he was able to use those elements so well was because he had fucking, like, Avatar state going on.
I don't necessarily know what the amount of time would have been.
Sozin could literally bend smoke, so it's not really out of the realm possibility. Kush bending. Is Kush.
Between Monk Gyatso telling him he's the Avatar, and then if he decided to stay instead of run away, would he have had the same amount of time? Because clearly he didn't need as much time as other avatars. So there is a real possibility that the events we see in the show Avatar could have happened over the same time span just 100 years ago. So, the comet would have given him power over fire the same way it did to the Fire Nation. So having Aang in that fight, when he stops Ozai on his own, he very well could have done the same thing to Sozin.
Absolutely.
Oh my god. Oh my god. Okay. Do y'all understand what they just did? In this entire podcast episode, they have, in this entire, 2-minute span, they have literally in just 1 minute, they invalidated the hell out of their previous video. Not that it was great by any means, but this is literally nuts, by the way. This is fucking nuts. They have literally said the exact opposite in their previous video, that Sozin comment would have them powered up and things would have gone differently, and that Aang would have actually been able to stop Sozin and shit. Instead of the bullshit they had going on in the previous fucking video, where they had, fucking Aang just not deal with... I can't fucking understand this shit. I can't. Oh. Oh, y'all are talking about Kush bending, huh?
And I think even Monkey Yatsu, died in the original timeline. But I would like to think that in this new version, if Aang was there, they would have found a way to get away. And Aang...
They said the opposite in their previous video. And now they're saying they are contradicting themselves actively. And this is the problem when you have multiple script writers and you're not proofreading your shit to not make sure that it freaking contradicts your previous videos. Because guess what? You get shit like this.
Could have at least trained with Monkey Yatsu, even more so to master airbending even more. And Monkey Yatsu would have hopefully have had some connections in the outside world to kind of do what they would normally do and train the Avatar, and he's skilled. Yes, it would have put Aang in a situation where he had to probably confront the Fire Lord much earlier than he would have wished.
Sure.
But I still think Aang could have handled it. And maybe the...
Oh my word. Oh my word. They are not I have heard no booming references. I have not heard any Kataka references. I have not heard shit. Or about Kuzan. This is unbelievable. They really, really failed to mention their last video at all. I don't think, no, let's not report this shit. I think there's definitely a lot of misleading content, but first of all, I am not really in the mood to, report someone, and two, I wouldn't be able to have fun reacting to this shit, to be honest. I'm having a lot of fun with this shit, but I don't report someone, please. I'm just being, I don't think it's a great idea, because we wouldn't have content like this.
Fire Nation at this point is like, oh crap, the Avatar is gaining in power, and we're not coming any closer to conquering it. The Avatar is probably going to beat us, and that's why I would like to think that Sozin was like, okay, we might lose our first attack, we might lose this battle, but we can still win the ultimate war. And that's by kind of conceding the fact that Aang is going to be powerful. Aang is going to keep fighting, and Aang is going to eventually defeat us. So let's maybe lie low a little bit and see how things unfold. I think Sozin is that smart to kind of plan that, don't you?
Oh, absolutely. His whole family, I think, are...
They really fucking, are contradicting themselves in their own fucking video. And they keep doing it. They had, Sozin try to hunt down Aang a little bit multiple times, and then all of a sudden he just gives up and shit without any explanation to that. And now they bring out about some reason here. And here's something I have to say, by the way. I don't think this podcast format is bad for CBR at all. They seem to actually are doing a little bit of a better job with some of their due diligence and stuff, and they actually seem to be a bit more coherent. But when they have different guys that are scripting their shit, the problem becomes, oh, we have a problem. We have people that we write this shit and just read this shit out loud that don't know what the fuck they're doing. And that's a problem to me, because there's a lot that they could be doing correctly. And honestly, they actually have a decent thing going on for a little bit of their podcast format, because a lot of their people can just go out and just talk. But the problem here is that when you have videos like this that instantly contradict the stuff that they said in previous videos, this arises so many different contradictions. I have a lot of problems here.
Long game sort of people. They'll give up the battle to win the war. And yes, having Aang around would change a lot. I would even shorten the timeline you said, because I don't think he would...
It probably would have been pretty good meme material, Rex, but I don't know. I'm not really in the mood to care about this type of shit too much. It's just fun content for me, and I just like ripping people to shreds for misleading for not doing a good job with research.
Need Monkey Yatsu to train him further. When he's broken out of the ice in the regular timeline, he's already mastered airbending. He certainly doesn't have a teacher. There's no more airbenders.
Aang was a prodigy, so it's a lot more than just him having mastered airbending. He was a fucking prodigy.
So basically, the point in time that we're sort of changing, where instead of deciding to run away, he decides to stay and become the Avatar. He's already got airbending down, so now he just needs Monkey Yatsu to connect him to the other people that will teach him the other elements. So I think it's very likely that Aang learns the elements in the same amount of time, stops the battle, as it were, sort of saves the...
I would argue that he would need a little bit more time to fully master all the elements again, because as I said, he did not have earthbending down in the original timeline completely, and he didn't have firebending down completely. He was really, really good at warbending, but he did not really fully master fire and earthbending by the time he got to Ozai. I feel like though that part of what they're saying is true, but but they got the timeline wrong. But I'm not. Again, this is a better. I feel this is what I'm saying right now. They're better at doing these type of podcast formats than they are with like scripted content. I don't know how, but they are.
The air nomads from going extinct, essentially, and then has them as allies later on. But I agree that having them as allies later on would be important because Sozin wouldn't just concede. He would fight, and then if he doesn't see a way out, he would sit back and wait.
Yeah, because as of right now, how the timeline, I believe, works out is that Sozin dies about 20 years after their first attack, and that's when Firelord Azulon takes over and kind of continues that Firelord fight. I think 20 years...
Bro looks like Aaron when he was homeless. Oh my god.
In that gap is enough time for Sozin to be like, okay, let's, I'm going to tell my son Azulon, just like, let's play the long game here. We've lost this, but be better than me, you know, rise up and wait for your chance. Wait for this avatar to die in order to kind of start over, and we can try again because, you know, the Fire Nation will live on with this family forever. And I like that sort of long-term plotting because that shows a real evilness when you can plot long-term, don't you think?
Again, this is not bad at all, and they're actually providing better explanations than they do in their what if stories. They're actually trying to like look into like full reasoning as to like why they're doing shit, and it's a lot better and solid when they're just talking shit off the top of their head versus like something that's scripted. And I don't know how. This is actually bizarre to me.
Oh, absolutely. If there were ever a time to attack, it would be when the one person who can stop you is between the ages of like 1 and 12. So yes, if Aang got to the point of sort of being able to stop them, it would be very smart to wait it out to the point where the next person is at a more vulnerable time.
Exactly. So that kind of sets the stage for where we're at in this like alternate future. Is that like the Fire Nation seems peaceful? You know, they're shaking hands with everybody. You know, they might be a little tense, but they still attend all the worldwide events and they play nice for now. But secretly, they're plotting a second takeover. And I love Aang a lot as a character because I think his optimism and the way that he views the world is what you need for an avatar. Aang will always believe the best in people. So I think although Aang would make a
This is so bizarre. They're actually doing a better job providing reason than they do in their freaking scripted content. I don't get it. I don't get it at all.
great avatar, and I think he would do a lot for the world around him. I think he would miss the fact that the Fire Nation is saying they're sorry, but actually not believing it. And that would lead into the fact that after he dies at his ripe old age, you know, the avatar would reincarnate to the next person, and it would be a Water Tribe individual. And I think that's why it's perfect that it would be Katara, because I just think that's the natural cycle of things. Katara, from what we saw, proved herself to be an amazing waterbender. Like, she was the bee's knees, you know? She was so great, and I think it would...
One of the few, like, a bender that had healing abilities, a bender that actually had rare healing abilities. She was also pretty proficient at waterbending for a while when she got it going, I guess. Even though she had her own struggles early on, she pretty much became the strongest waterbender of her time. So... and also, actually, maybe of all time, because he also has access to bloodbane and shit. I don't know a lot of people that can really take on Katara at her peak. That's crazy.
It makes sense for the Avatar cycle to continue on with her. What do you think? Do you think Katara has the merits to be a good Avatar?
Well, she certainly is the bee's knees, I will give you that. But yes, if there's one thing about Katara, it's that Avatar or not, she is... her, like, if we're going to deal with destiny, Katara's destiny has always been for great things, because even when she's not the Avatar, she is like the right-hand person to the Avatar and helps him succeed. She's also, as you said, a fantastic waterbender. Like Aang with airbending, post being stuck in ice, Katara didn't really have a teacher. She became one of the best waterbenders by teaching herself, which is...
That is something that we also... And also, she also had moments where she casually accidentally cut ice apart with her waterbending. Again, I don't understand this. Their unscripted content is much better than their freaking, like, scripted content. It's just annoying to me that because their freaking videos right now is that this video actively contradicts what they're doing, what they did in the previous part. And that's just so annoying to me. Cause like if they had actually had something like this going on, and had a better structure of this, it would be their first video would be a lot better. But since these two videos just contradict, since What If Aang Never Ran Away and Katara's the Avatar contradict each other actively, and they don't even reference one of the main pieces of content they actually had that they could easily reference but don't, it creates a lot of problems. And that's again the major problem with just like having the type of model that CBR has, because you get shit like this.
It's such a mind-blowing feat when you think about everything in consideration. So I think it's very possible, very plausible, especially if we're sort of in a time where, you know, Sozin's playing the long game, but maybe they still get rid of a lot of Water Nation.
And would have some semi-decent reasoning. I agree. They actually have semi-decent reasoning of what's going on. It's a shame, because literally it would be a lot better if they did it in their scripted content in the beginning. Like, I don't understand this shit. Bro, I am further down the CBR rabbit hole than I even wanted to go down, but this is actually not terrible at all.
Nation people, because outside of the Air Nation in the regular timeline, obviously, Water Nation's pretty small. And
also, yeah, the people that are probably working for CBR, that's another point, they probably are grabbing some, like, random dude to, like, talk to, like, read off a script that doesn't really know what the fuck they're talking about. I know damn well the person that read the times that Naruto ripped off Goku and shit, or Dragon Ball or whatever, wasn't as passionate about Naruto as he was about maybe something else, because he clearly doesn't take the time to pronunciate shit properly, and didn't even take the time to, like, do any of, like, any research and shit. That also is part of CBR's fault as well, because, like, they are not, because their models and shit and scripts or whatever just, like, have that type of garbage as well. But I can clearly tell the guy that's working for them isn't really as passionate about, like, Naruto or whatever, or maybe even anime in general. Again, the dude called My Hero Academia My Hero Academy. Maybe he's, like, interested more in comics and shit, or maybe Avatar. That's fine as hell. That's fine. You don't have to be. I just feel like that CBR right now, just what I'm gathering right now, is not putting their talent in positions to succeed, and they're actually putting their talent in positions to fail. The people that write their scripts are not doing a good job at what they're doing, and they probably don't even care about the series that they're even looking at right now. And the people that they have voiced in their videos to deliver the content don't really care about the shit that they're talking about either. So that's a problem that I actively have.
A whole lot of options. So Katara is definitely a prime candidate if Aang lives to that perfect age.
And again, different people probably work on the scripts for different videos, so it makes sense that a completely different team would have a different interpretation. Yeah, but that's a problem, because if you're actually contradicting your previous content, it creates issues.
It dies at the right time.
Exactly, because like the way I see it is like how it would unfold is kind of like this. They kind of sense Aang is on his way out. Aang's old, he's accomplished all that he wants to accomplish, and you know, the Fire Nation's like, okay, this is our chance. So they start doing, you know, making little moves, you know, just slightly, like maybe invade, you know, some Earth islands just to expand a little bit, you know, and everyone's like, hey, don't do that, and they're like, okay, sorry. But then they continue to build out their empire. And
I also will take back my previous criticism about, like, the scripter, like, not being confident or whatever, because that, now that I know that that this is a podcast episode, it makes sense why they're starting a lot, because they're trying to think of shit on the fly. So, like, I take back that criticism. But again, a lot of my issues with this video do not come from the fact that it's a bad video. It comes from the fact that it actively contradicts their previous content.
And as you said, kind of attacking maybe more Water Nation tribes, because they know that the next Avatar is going to be from the Water Nation, so they're trying to hedge their bets. And when the Avatar is reincarnated to Katara, they try take two, because I believe destiny has a way of working itself out where kind of the same kind of similar things can happen. So we know that as of now, Katara's mother sacrificed herself to save her when she was a young child in the original timeline, and I would like to think something like that would happen again. So I imagine when the Fire Nation attacks and Katara is still either a baby or super young, you know, the Fire Nation comes to invade, and Kaya ultimately dies, and it leaves Hakoda, Sokka and Katara's father, to take those two of them and venture off to maybe a better stronghold, which is the Northern Water Temple, and which kind of sets up this journey of Katara needs to train. And the way that I see it is that if she's taken as a young child to the Northern Water Temple, she can stay there for years and kind of build up her skills and get ready for the war that's happening in the outside world, because
And she would probably have to be told that she's the Avatar at a young age because of what's going on right now. So, like, yeah.
the Northern Water Temple is very, was very secure for a bit. And let's pretend for this alternate timeline, it's maybe a little bit more secured, where she can actually stay behind those walls. But then there eventually comes a point where she has to venture out, right? She has to train.
I don't like their reasoning a bit. I feel like it would be better to, like, say, well, the better reason is, like, they structure their shit better because they have the fucking Avatar with them. Because, like, you're supposed to know that you're the Avatar at a very young age. So, like, and, like, probably around the time you're, like, very young and shit. So, like, I feel like the Northern Water Tribe would do whatever it takes to make sure they keep the Avatar. And also, I know that there probably is, like, going to be talk about, like, the Northern Water Tribes just, like, put their female waterbenders as healers. They cannot do that with the Avatar because she has a different destiny. So, a lot of this stuff is actually working out for them so far.
So it would be, I think that's a good setup for an Avatar show.
But be honest, Sage. Would you have generally preferred it if they stuck with the BS with Aang never ran away can? I mean, I would have to laugh at him more, but still. No, but the thing is that I feel like there would at least be some type of consistency with their content a little bit. Because they would at least be able to, like, reference back to, like, what they previously did. And be like, okay, this is how we did it in the original timeline and stuff. But, like, and, like, that's how we did it, like, here. That's where we're gonna go with it. We're gonna tell the story from that perspective. But the thing is like, they also don't even acknowledge the content itself. If they wanted to, they could have said, hey, we did a video on this the other day. We don't really think, we're gonna try a different take on that. But they don't even bother to acknowledge the previous video at all. Which is kind of like, that's a bit of a problem to me. I have a bit of a problem with that. Concerning the fact they put out that information out there, they put that video out there, they don't even bother to either use it or at least acknowledge it at all. So, like, that's something I do have a problem with. I don't have a problem with them not going after that story because, honestly, again, that story they had going on in that canon was garbage, but the fact they don't even bother to acknowledge it is a problem.
Avatar Katara, right?
Totally, and you talk about Destiny. The same thing would probably happen with her and her mother because the Fire Nation knows Aang just died.
How do they know that she's the Avatar? I don't know how the monks knew it either, but like they knew like Aang was the Avatar at a young age. It was I think it's based off like the toys they pick or some shit or like or something else. It's like but it's something that people know right away, I believe.
Next Avatar is going to be born into the Water Tribe. They would go looking at the South Pole again and say, where's the waterbender? She's probably not like, because in the regular timeline, they're just trying to get rid of all waterbenders. But in this new timeline, now they're looking for the Avatar. And so, yeah, it could really work out the way you're pitching it.
And then I think then that kind of leads us into like the really fun stuff. So it's like, so say Katara's, like a teen,
because in the regular timeline, they're just trying to get rid. The same thing would probably happen with her and her mother because the Fire Nation knows Aang just died. The next Avatar is going to be born into the Water Tribe. They would go looking at the South Pole again and say, where's the waterbender? She's probably not like, because in the regular timeline, they're just trying to get rid of all waterbenders. But in this new timeline, now they're looking for the Avatar. And so, yeah, it could really work out the way you're pitching it.
And then I think then that kind of leads us into like the really fun stuff. So it's like, so say Katara's, like a teen, like how old she is in the original thing, which is I believe 14 years old. She has to go out and maybe Hakoda is off fighting, like he tends to do. And so her and Sokka, maybe there's a breach in the Northern Water Temple like there is in the original show, and it forces them to go out and find teachers and start their training and have a very similar adventure. She needs her own team avatar, and I think there's some great options to fill those slots. And I'd love to hear your thoughts about who could be Katara's team avatar in a sense.
Sure. Well, let's start with Earth, I guess. Yeah. So I would think Earth would be the first stop. Toph would still.
I don't know about that one. What's the usual order that of bending that you have to go for if you're the avatar? Is it like how Korra did originally with like water to earth to fire? Is it like how Korra did originally with like water, earth, and fire, and then eventually get to air? Or is it like something different? Because I'm very confused about that. I know the last something that Korra learned was air. I know that for sure. Oh, by the way, I started part 3 and I'm on episode 8. Gotta say, part 3 is cooking up. Are you talking about JoJo's? Oh, interesting. I do want to get to, don't say anything yet. I'm probably gonna I'll have to get, I'm still on Solar right now. I'll finish that when I can. And then I'll probably eventually start, part 2 of JoJo's. Again, I've heard a lot of good stuff about it from all of you guys, so, like, yeah, it's definitely gonna be interesting to see how that goes.
They'll be around. Theoretically, if she crosses paths with Toph, who has proven herself to be like the greatest Earthbender, that's certainly a viable option.
I was just saying, because you just made me think, when you say Toph, that's great, because I would love to see their interaction. They had such an interesting interaction, like, on the original show by being both teachers, but it would be a completely different dynamic if Toph has to teach Katara.
Yeah, I actually do agree with that. Aang was air, water, earth, fire. Korra was water, earth, fire, and air. So they're actually not doing a terrible job right now, I guess. So, like, wait, if the air nomads are dead, then how'd she learn airbending? They explained that. They said the air nomads would survive because Aang was there helping them out. So, and due to, like, him going into the Avatar scene and such. So, like, they're not really contradicting anything so far. In fact, this is a lot more structured. That is crazy, though, to me, because that's something that should not even... Because that is hard to, like, structure something a bit better in a podcast and a scripted video, because usually with your script, you have all your points right in front of you, and then you just, like, say what you're saying. These guys are clearly not reading off a script, because they have a better structure going on than what they have now. They probably do have some notes and shit, but I believe a bunch of this is probably off the top of their heads. That is nuts to me.
That's all I was going to say. It's just like, that would be amazing.
Oh, absolutely, because they would sort of encounter the same issues, because Katara as a teacher is obviously opposite style of Toph, so I would imagine Katara's learning style would really clash with Toph's as well, so
wait.
we would get that same sort of thing. Counter the same issues.
If Toph has to teach Katara, that's all I was going to say. It's just like, that would be amazing.
Oh, absolutely, because they would sort of encounter the same issues, because Katara as a teacher is obviously opposite style of Toph, so I would imagine...
This one I gotta disagree with. The reason why Aang had struggles with earthbending was because he had to be rigid. I don't know if Katara would have those same issues, because I feel like there has to be some form of discipline if you're a waterbender. But there probably would still be those struggles, but I feel like they're kind of underlying, like, oh, just because, like, Aang struggled with, like, freaking, earthbending, that means Katara will, too. But, like, that could be a possibility, but the reasoning is a little bit off.
Katara's learning style would really clash with Toph's as well, so we would get that same sort of thing.
Absolutely.
But yeah, no, the other Earthbender I was going to mention would be Boomy, but I don't know if Boomy would do it for the same reasons he sort of sends Aang on his way to someone else. Like, maybe Boomy would know if he's the right person for Katara or not.
That's true, and if Boomy, was super kind of hesitant on teaching Aang right away, given their close relationship, it stands to reason that he would probably be even less hesitant to teach, Katara. Totally. So that would be tough. So I think Toph is the better option, and I just love the situation that kind of sets up. So that's Earth. Mm-hmm. My opinion for airbending is Tenzin, who is Aang's son in the new show. Of course, it's not the same Tenzin that we know from Legend of Korra, because obviously in that timeline, Katara and...
But I don't think they mentioned who Aang would marry, though, in that timeline, so they don't really, like... This is a little bit of a problem, because, like, how would Tenzin come into existence? I know that originally Tenzin, like, who the hell does Aang marry? I think I gotta knock a point off here, because they don't even mention who the hell Aang marries so far.
Aang are together, and they have a son named Tenzin. But right. I would still think that Aang would get married in his life, and obviously would not be with Katara, but it would be with somebody else.
Never mind. Okay, they actually do address this. Never mind. I'll eat my crow. I'll eat my crow.
I don't know. I would imagine at that point he would get married to another air nomad, just probably to continue on the airbending legacy, and they would...
Yeah, they got a point there as well. Wow, I have literally not as many problems as I had with any of their previous videos. They have a point there, because, like, how often do you see people outside of their own, like, race, they're like, not race, bending shit, like, just, like, go outside of that shit, outside of their own tribes and shit. I honestly feel like that's actually some solid reason for why Aang would do it, because he continue the air nomad tradition, and maybe, like, find someone like that. I don't know, it's a possibility, and tries to continue it as well. That's not terrible at all. That's
would
not.
still have a son named Tenzin.
It is actually bizarre.
So, in my mind, just so I can see the show, and in my mind, it's still an adult Tenzin who's voiced by J.K. Simmons. And that's, I don't even care if that timeline doesn't really work out or the logics of that make it look weird. I just want to see J.K. Simmons as an airbending teacher again.
I'll take that reason as well.
In
J.K. Simmons is such a good voice actor, not gonna lie.
whatever show and whatever he wants to be in.
Sure. No, that sounds great. But honestly, like realistically thinking about it, there's not a whole lot of options because from the timeline we know, there's no other really airbenders to point to. The only thing I can think of is, wouldn't it be kind of cool if like maybe Monk Gyatso had this like air that we didn't know about in terms of like air nomads, but living in this timeline where Aang has sort of stopped the extinction of air nomads and Monk Gyatso, maybe he has this powerful grandson that Katara comes along and he can be like, my grandfather taught the last Avatar, and that would be sort of a cool connection.
Oh, I love that because they do.
Bro, this is actually not bad either. Although, how old was Gyatso? Wasn't he kind of old at this point? What air would he even, does he even have like an air, have an air? I mean, it's possible though, so it's not completely out there. But I don't know if we know too much about Monk Gyatso unless I look back at the comics and see if they actually did have an heir. But again, this is actually, they're actually, the times where they're just like fucking around speculating about like what they can do about shit and what they're doing right now is so much better, and it just makes their scripted content look even worse to me.
You like to say that friendships know no bounds. That's what happened when it was revealed that Avatar Roku was friends with Monk
Aaron
Gyatso,
and Luffy made me
like
lust for
friendship
freedom.
transcends all these things, and that would be a fun connection. And I actually do like that idea a lot. So sorry, J.K. Simmons, you're out. Like it's
well, J.K. Simmons could still voice him. No?
Oh, that's true.
Bro, this shit is structured so. This thing should not be this well done as it is, but it is. And again, this is not, well, okay, it's not like it's not crazy great or whatever, but it's a lot better in comparison. And honestly, CBR would probably be better off doing more podcast shit like this, to me. And over like their scripted content, because clearly they can't really do that properly. But they're not gonna do that.
I was in a very one track. J.K. Simmons can only voice Tenzin, but I guess this is an alternate reality. Anything can happen here, Nick.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that kind of fills out a good solid part of the team. Now I think we get into what I think is probably one of the most interesting elements. It's the firebender. Katara is going to need a firebending teacher, and that's why I think Zuko would fill that role kind of perfectly, because I would imagine that he's going through his same sort of conflicted character arc that he does in the original show, and now this time maybe he comes around to it a little bit sooner, given that the weird timey-wimey sort of shenanigans that happen on, and he just knows that he wants to train the Avatar and realize that, hey, my family plotted a war for 100 years. They're not the good guys here, and want to train the Avatar, and I think that would be perfect, right?
My question about that is, like, would Zuko actually still get banished, is the question. Because a lot of, like, his drive and conflict and shit came from the fact that he got banished. But then again, Zuko was also still pretty good at heart. He was just, like, trying to get the attention of a father that clearly did not really care about him and didn't even really see him as anything else than just a tool, kind of like Azula did. Kind of like how he saw Azula a little bit. I don't know. I feel like, Ozai fucked Azula hard. Don't take that out of context. But Azula, like, fucked over Azula hard because of, like, because of the fucking manipulation shit that she went for because of him. Not to, like, justify her actions or whatever, because a lot of the actions that Azula took were, like, really bad. But she's very much also a victim of, like, Ozai's bullshit, to me. I don't know, maybe people might have a disagreement there, but, well, actually, no, they can't. We've all watched the same show.
I mean, like, I can't think of anyone better than Zuko.
I agree.
To be honest, though, I do agree with them. There probably isn't a lot of other good guys to, like, teach Zuko to better than Zuko in this timeline. Mostly because of the fact that, one of the Master Firebenders in, like, Iroh would probably be decent enough. But you kind of get him with Zuko anyways, so unless, like, they separate in this timeline. And it can't be Azula, for God's sake. It can't be freaking John because he had issues of his own. So I don't know.
To an extent. I'm going to pitch something real crazy here.
Okay.
And I mean real crazy. So we're pitching this thing where Aang is alive, right? Aang is alive during this whole time when the Fire Nation rises up. What if, let's say it skips a generation. What if Sozin, in retreating from war, means that his son Azulan is no longer going to fill his shoes? What if Sozin says, we're going to wait? The same sort of way in Star Wars, how like it skips a generation. Like Kylo Ren goes, I will finish what my grandfather started because my father is like a good person, or my mother is a good person. Ooh. What if it skips a generation? Maybe Aang becomes friends with Azulan the same way he became friends with Zuko when he was stuck in the ice. And then we get sort of different dynamics within the regime of the Fire Nation.
Here's the problem I have with this. They probably should have addressed this type of stuff in the Aang timeline section. But the thing is like I can like give some leeway here because they're just like talking out how something will work out and trying to form a story from there. They're not reading something off a script. They're just like talking off the top of their head. I do think they probably could have at this point probably should have gone in like the Aang timeline shit. But I feel like that I can give some leeway to it a little bit.
Maybe Azula does not become this crazy person because she does not have like her grandfather pushing these things down, whereas her father maybe takes more of a liking to Zuko now that he didn't have a father figure that he sort of agreed with of his own. Maybe Iroh has more of an effect on Azula in this timeline now that we're saying. So what we know about Zuko, it certainly makes the most sense. But if we're pitching this whole warped timeline where a bunch of different things happen, I could certainly see one or two things going differently in that lineage that would make Azula want to be an ally of...
I don't know, because one of the main problems... I can't agree with that, because considering the fact that how talented Azula was at a young age, and how, in comparison, how Zuko was quote-unquote lucky to be born, I feel like there still probably would be some bullshit going on in Zuko's life, to be honest. So I can't really agree with this here. But again, they're just like speculating as to like what they're doing here. So it's not like, and they're trying to figure out how a story would work out. But that's a very glaring flaw here.
Katara.
Ooh, so Azula's the ally and Zuko is more of the bad guy in this crazy alternate timeline.
I think it's very possible.
Ah, gosh. I love that so much.
But it doesn't fully work to me.
I was so excited. I was getting ready to explain this is finally the chance for Zuko and Katara to get together like they rightfully should have in the
Bro, stop.
beginning because they're two kindred souls and I had all that locked and loaded. But then you go and pitch that. And I think I want to see that more. I do want to see what Zuko could have been, right? Because if we know the original show and then we get to see this alternate timelines, like that makes... You have, though. Because you did What If Zuko Never Became Good, though. At all. So, like, you still, like... So, you're actively contradicting yourselves again. Oh my... Hold on a minute. I need to check this once again. I'll hold that. I'll hold my. I know where I stopped.
Imagine the world.
September 7th. Again, this is why.
Much. I was so excited. I was getting ready to explain this is finally the chance for Zuko and Katara to get together like they rightfully should have in the beginning.
Oh yeah, I forgot. I haven't watched Avatar in 2 years. Hey, what's up, Rox? Bruh.
Pitch that. And I think I want to see that more. I do want to see what Zuko
Oh, I thought that was
gonna
make Katara in this canon. This. Thank Christ.
That makes it even better, right? To like see Zuko give into his dark impulses and see how bad he could have been. And it would be great to see Azula as an ultimate good person. Maybe she's not a full-on good person, but like maybe she's like, she's still snide, she's still manipulative, but she ultimately wants to do good. And then you have this awesome team of Monk Gyatso's, grandchild, voiced by J.K. Simmons. You have Toph, you have Azula, and you have Katara all fighting like on the same team.
I gotta have some. That's the Azula shit is probably the one thing I'm gonna have a disagreement with. And again, they contradicted their own videos again because they've already done a video on this. But after this way before this podcast came out. So none of this is. So again, more contradiction bullshit.
That sounds so epic.
Yeah, I could see it, but I do want to hear about Katara and Zuko, because that is definitely something.
I seriously hate that ship so much, man. Bro, I don't, I'm a fan of, like, I like, something I do like Toph X Aang, but, like, I still love me some Avatar, Aang X Katara. I mean, I have never been that big of a fan of Zutara at all. I have just never been a big fan of that. A minor side note for that. A minor side note.
I pictured in the show, I was like, they would kind of make a good couple.
Right? Just because I just thought that they came from very...
Plus, nah, bro, Zuko with freaking Mei is also pretty cool as well. I actually like their relationship a lot, especially since it's very clear that Mei has liked him from the beginning. I just like, but just kept getting but it had to deal with freaking Azula's bullshit.
very similar backgrounds, both with losing their mothers, and they just never got a chance to fully explore their relationship because Aang was in the way there, and it took Zuko a while to kind of turn good, and he was too obsessed with finding his honor to really focus on Katara. And
bro, but he found fucking Mei. Bro, leave my girl Mei alone. Leave her alone. Yeah, exactly. Why are they still talking about Zutara? Toph and Aang are the equivalent of Zutara for me, to be honest, just a bit less toxic. I feel like, I don't know, man. I don't know. I feel like the personalities and interactions they have with each other are pretty... and the dynamic they have could actually evolve into something into like a romance if you do it correctly. And that's kind of why I like Tang. I don't really like Zutara too much though, because there's just a lot of like problems actively that just kind of get in the way of it. And it just comes and like I don't know, man. I don't know. I'm a much bigger fan of Zuko X Mei, man. I like those two a lot.
And all that stuff. But dang it, I like your idea better.
The one last thing I will say is you could do that with like Zuko and Katara having this relationship, and then you could make like Zuko's ex-girlfriend Mei like a lead villain in the series. Like you could have Ty Lee come back. I think
me personally, I don't ship 12. We all literally were hoping for Aang to get fucking Katara when we first watched Avatar when we were kids, man. We're bro. I'm literally talking from my experience of like watching the show, especially when I was like in my the years of like of watching Avatar and shit. I was a huge freaking fan of like Katara X Aang. And, like, I also really liked Mei and Zuko's relationship. It was really cute. I found that shit to be really cute back when I was, like, watching this shit in middle school. But, like,
dynamics would be really interesting if you sort of break Zuko and Mei up and have them be with Katara, and then see what that does to the rest of the people surrounding.
It depends on the timeline. What are you talking about? Since they're quite a bit older in the comics? Wait, where? Like, which one are you talking about?
Zuko.
Man, this is just writing itself up at this point. I mean, like, I'm jotting all these notes down to pitch it to,
M. Night Shyamalan, give us a call.
Yeah, we're available. Yeah.
M. Night I do not want M. Night Shyamalan anywhere near a fucking Avatar project ever again.
Because I like that idea more, because I think that would lead to a more cathartic ending, right, of Katara eventually taking on this evil Zuko with her team by her side. I think that would just be a more fitting ending, and it would be very, very similar, because I think you could actually kind of play it the same.
Kid Rock just cared about light bending. I cared as a kid about my protagonist winning. I wanted my protagonist to win after all the bullshit they went through. I'm still that same way today, man. I want my protagonist to win no matter what.
Same way where both Katara still loses her mom and Zuko still maybe loses his mom in some fashion, and that creates this hero and this villain who are very similar to each other and ultimately have to fight one another. And I think that's what makes the most interesting stories overall. So I'm sorry, Aang. I think Avatar: The Last Airbender is one of the greatest cartoons of all time, if not the greatest television shows of all time. But hearing what we just pitched, I mean, I think this could give it a run for its money.
I don't know about that one, my guy.
Absolutely, I agree.
So I think that about does it. We definitely had some fun today talking about this crazy.
But I will say, a lot better in comparison to whatever other content you put out there. So I'll give you credit there.
The alternate timeline of
I was so ready to hate this entire video, and I'm like thinking to myself, why the fuck are they contradicting their previous content? That's the first thing. And second, why the fuck is this thing actually a lot better in comparison to scripted content? Like, it just actually pisses me off a lot more. Now I know they can actually create content like this, because it's a lot better in comparison to their scripted content. I don't get it. It's like lightning generation and shit. Like, usually we see like firebenders just like use like at the end of the day, again, this is this thing that I have to say right now. CBR needs to make more content like this. They need to stop with their scripted bullshit, because like clearly the guys that they have when they're doing their podcast actually take this shit a lot more seriously. The problem is that they usually, with their current structure, just have guys that do not know what the fuck they're talking about, and they create some bullshit like what we saw previously. If they made more like podcast-oriented content, they could actually be a little better in comparison to what their normal content is. Not the greatest, obviously, but it's not terrible content at all. So I'm just like, and it just makes me really confused as to like what the hell they're doing, as to like what the fuck is going on in their scripting department. I don't know like what's going on. I don't know if they're putting their talent in bad positions to succeed. I don't know, but there's something going on here that's just like limiting what they could do here. Because clearly, this wasn't terrible at all. This wasn't terrible. So that just frustrates me a lot more. Not gonna lie. The podcast makes them more human, I agree. The closest thing that we have to line bending is in the comics with Azula's light bulb BS. They're like, again, and by the way, there are still some hiccups here and there, but a lot of that can be excused with them just trying to come with something off the fucking dome. And that's nuts to me. That's just nuts. Because clearly the guys that I'm looking at right now actually give a shit about like what they're trying to talk about. But like with freaking like other videos that CBR's produce, it's night and day. It's night and day. I see the same issues over and over again. So we end here, or are we gonna chill? Yeah, I don't see any interesting comments talking about this shit. Alright, I'm gonna end